And joining me now live is the New South Wales Treasurer, Dominic Perrottet, here in the studio. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Laura.
This is not new from John Barilaro in terms of his push for nuclear, but now he wants to see a vote, a referendum or a plebiscite. Good idea?
Look, I think we should certainly look at it. I don't think progress was ever made by taking issues off the table, and I think with a whole lot of these energy issues, there's the ideology on both sides gets in the way. We don't make any progress. So I would like to see a discussion around nuclear. I think we've talked about potentially a Senate inquiry to get information on the table. I'm not so sure about a referendum, but let's have a discussion around these things. I think one of the biggest issues from a New South Wales and Commonwealth perspective over the next term of government is going to be energy security. So we need to get all those issues on the table.
So when could you do a Senate inquiry?
Well, I mean, that's obviously a matter for the federal government, but I think they should look at it, and we need to have the facts.
So you're saying that this is a federal issue, not one the state.
Yeah, I think the federal government should look at it, and the states can obviously play a role in that, and obviously our state senators would play a crucial role in the discussion and getting all the information and facts and evidence on the table about the safety and security of nuclear power.
The ban expires next year, so is that a perfect kind of inflection point to then look at it, or do you think it should be done earlier?
I think you should do it in advance and be ahead of the curve. And even if this industry was to get up, it's going to take some time to get off the ground. But importantly, I think we need to get the facts on the table and have the scaremongering go to one side. And if this stacks up and provides safe, secure and clean energy, we should look at it.
Well, South Australia looked at it and it didn't. So where are you personally on this? Are you a fan of it as the New South Wales Treasurer? The difficult part is always where do you put the spent nuclear rods? Can you identify anywhere in New South Wales where that would be okay?
Well, John Barilaro has offered up his own electorate, I think. So
would you offer up yours?
Well, no, and these are challenging issues, but we've got to get the facts and the evidence on the table and discuss it. But the problem with all these debates is we start with the scaremongering. As I said at the start, progress wasn't made by taking issues off the table. We should have a real discussion around all types of energy. We've got an issue with gas in New South Wales as well that we should be looking at. And I'm very open to discussion. I think the federal government should take the lead.
OK, we'll follow that up. Now, it's a week on from you handing down your latest budget.
Yep.
You did flag more asset sales. What and when?
Well, Laura, I didn't flag asset sales. What I said was we'll always make decisions on financing infrastructure at that point in time. If you look at the debt position in New South Wales, it's incredibly manageable. I mean, it's sustainable, it's affordable. Where we sit at the moment, even today, we have a negative net debt position in the final year, whilst it goes about 5% of our GSP.
How is it sustainable when you go from being in the black now to almost, what is it, $38 billion in debt in 4 years' time? Is that really sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, that's about 5% of our GSP, and that's about, if you look at the other states, that's about half the rate whilst building double the infrastructure. So that's from where we sit nationally. I think we're in a very strong position, and that's a manageable position, and that's a 4-year projection as well. Let's keep in mind. But we're building $93 billion of infrastructure, and unlike other states, we got ahead of the curve years ago when we took asset recycling to the 2015 election. The people of New South Wales said, well, we preferred to have a school and a hospital rather than a pole outside our house. And that's really transformed. And it's not just these infrastructure projects, the benefits are going to be there once they're open. We're seeing the economic growth now during construction. We're seeing the Reserve Bank Governor coming out and saying states should be building infrastructure to drive economic growth, 0.5 percentage points of economic growth each year. So I think the position we're in is very strong. OK,
but how do you pay for these projects such as the Western Metro and the $93 billion worth of infrastructure if you don't sell off some of these assets?
Well, the $93 billion of infrastructure over the next 4 years is fully funded. Now, there's no doubt...
How can things be fully funded when you're $38 billion in the black?
Yeah, well, and that takes into our debt position over those 4 years. So it's a combination of asset sales, property sales that we have, which we continue to recycle here in New South Wales, and the surplus position, and our cash. But at the same time, there are major infrastructure projects in the pipeline. You raise Metro West. We've asked the federal government that we think that they should provide greater support to our state. We've always
said... What have they said there?
Well, we're waiting to hear back, Laura, but we are proud in New South Wales to stand on our own 2 feet, and we manage our finances responsibly, but at the same time we don't believe that should be taken advantage of by the federal government. On a per capita basis, we're one of the, we receive the least infrastructure support from the Commonwealth government. But at the same time, there's a major infrastructure investment over the next 4 years. We're very much in a delivery phase, and we'll always look at the best way of financing that infrastructure delivery. And today where we sit, I'm very comfortable with our debt position and with our infrastructure investment. And now we're focused on getting these projects built and out the door.
Are you being dudded on the infrastructure help from the feds? And also, I note that you're having a GST review. You're being dudded on both those things?
Well, I think we should have greater support for infrastructure, and I've raised that numerous times. I mean, if you look at, we've got a significant infrastructure investment, but any extra support we can have from the Commonwealth, I think, would be beneficial to our state. I've launched in this year's budget a federation financial review, and I think the states have a much greater role in a bottom-up federation and driving reform. And usually we've been passive players at a federal COAG level, whereas we really have a role and responsibility in driving better outcomes. We have 40 different financial arrangements with the federal government, delivering only around $10 billion of revenue into the state.
The GST review, why is that required?
Well, I mean, when it comes to the GST, Laura, New South Wales continues to miss out. We're on a per capita basis, we'd be around $20 billion better off over a 5-year period. Our states that reform are penalised.
Will you look at broadening the base, increasing the rate? Is that
something
you would push for?
I would argue for, look, as a Liberal, Laura, I believe in lowering taxes. I certainly wouldn't be arguing for broadening the base or increasing the GST in circumstances.
You just want more of the pie?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't argue for an increase in GST when that will only result in taxpayers of New South Wales subsidising states like Queensland even more. I think what's fair, what would be a fairer system is that states like New South Wales that reform, that make better use of our assets, are given greater support and incentives to do so. And I think it's a great opportunity now, where we sit in the electoral cycle, both at a federal and many states, to sit down and work out opportunities for reform. The review that I've launched will come up with a number of recommendations, which I'll take to the federal government for opportunities of better financial relations between New South Wales and the Commonwealth.
Just finally, will Gladys go full term?
She will.
If she doesn't, will you step up?
No, look, I think Gladys is doing a fantastic job as Premier. She's a great leader, and I think the longer she's there, the better the state of New South Wales.
Okay. Does anyone ever ask you how you do your job and have 5, almost 6 children?
It's tough. It's tough, but everyone has their challenges and balances work and family life, and I'm no different. My wife's no different, but we find a way.
Sounds like a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, we get there.
Dominic Perrottet, appreciate your time.
Thanks, Laura.